Good afternoon, everybody. I'm joined today by the lovely Katee Kross. Hi. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me.
So,
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah. It's nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. My first question is to you, is that your real name or is that a stage name?
It is definitely a stage name. I'd like to kid on that it is my real name and my mum just couldn't spell, but yeah, I'm afraid it's just a stage name.
It's lovely. It's really nice. So, tell us a wee bit about who you are and what it is that you actually do.
Yeah, no worries. So, my name's Katee Kross. I'm a singer-songwriter from Bishopbriggs. I've been a professional musician since I was 16, and in February I turned 23. So that seems old in the music world, but I know it's still pretty young.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I've released my fourth album in February,
Wow.
and starting to do really well. So
Uh-huh.
I'm looking
And
forward
you
to it.
released that to a sell-out Glasgow show, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We released it in a theatre called Webster's Theatre. So it's like a converted church that's been converted into a theatre. And
Right.
it was lovely and it was sold out and it was just before all this madness. So it was quite nice to get it out the way because it was due to get released in March. And we brought it forward a bit. So yeah,
Oh, that's
quite lucky.
lovely. Oh, that was great. So, do you sing just by yourself, or have you've got a couple of guys that sing alongside you, or instrumental?
Yeah, so it's so I'm the singer and the lead lady, as they say, leading
Mhm.
lady. And then I've got Ross, who is my partner, and he plays guitar, he plays electric guitar and lead guitar and things like that. So it's always me and Ross, you see. That's kind of
Okay.
the brand, our two faces. And then our bass guitarist and our drummer, and sometimes keys, we always session that out. So when you say session out, it just means you get session musicians in. And
Right.
it's just a wee bit easier because you can just pick and choose who you want for that gig. So we've got three or four different drummers we use, and the same for bass, and the same for keys and backing vocals and things. So the band can change, the makeup of it can change, and the faces can change, but the front two always stay the same.
Right. And your style of music, is it country you would describe it as?
I think nowadays, yeah, it's kind of described as country. The past few years, country has exploded into every kind of scene possible, and it's not quite your traditional country. Like country isn't just honky tonk line dancing anymore. It's much wider. And it also kind of goes into something called Americana, which is fairly new to most folk, which is where we lie. We lie in between the Americana country, right on the border of it. But yeah, just for easiness, we just say country.
Uh-huh. And has that always been the genre that you've been attracted to since you were young?
Yeah, well, I come from a very musical family, and we always had family parties, and everyone always brought a certain instrument, and it was one singer, one song, and it always happened to be just the way everyone was singing, and the tone they had always kind of sounded quite country, kind
Uh-huh.
of had that country twang to it. So I think just always being immersed in that, it was quite natural for me to go into that scene. I did start out in the folk scene for a while, the Scottish folk scene. I still go back there. There's a festival that runs in November. It's called the Perthshire Amber Festival, and it's actually run by Dougie MacLean, who wrote Caledonia. Most people think Caledonia was wrote by Frankie Miller, but it was actually wrote by Dougie. So I go back there and I volunteer and help out there. So it's nice to kind of go back to where it all started in the folky scene. But yeah, very much firmly in the country scene now.
And you must have had loads of gigs and things lined up then that have all been put to halt with what's happened. What are your plans now? How are you going to keep moving forward?
So I think for musicians, obviously everyone's struggling just now, but I think musicians have got it slightly easier because we can always do these live streams and we can still keep our profile kind of high. So that's what we've been doing. We've been doing a live stream every Saturday at 7 p.m. on Katee Kross Facebook page.
Mhm.
And then we've just been putting wee videos out here and there and getting involved in different live streams. I was doing one on Monday last week as well. For the gig front, we've just had to kind of, take it as it comes. Some of them have been cancelled because it was just a person that put on a festival and they've lost loads of money, so they can't afford to postpone it to next year, so they've had to just say it has to be cancelled, it's absolutely understandable. And other ones that are run by bigger companies have just been postponed to later in the year or maybe next year. So we're definitely going to get to play some of the stages that we had planned to play. I suppose it's just it's uncharted territory, and you've just got to take it each day as it comes, and know that you're doing the right thing and you're keeping everyone safe anyway.
Yeah. Hi, Susan. Hi, Scott. Scott's saying a great live stream last night, Katee. One of your fans.
Thanks very much.
So how does a young girl then sort of come out of school, and then you released your first album when you were 19? How did that all come about? Because for a lot of people that just seems unimaginable. You know, it's a dream. How does that happen?
It's quite funny because when I was in high school, I really loved high school, and then I went into 5th year, and the jump between when it used to be standard grades, now I feel really old. When it used to be standard grades and it moved to higher, that jump was just a bit too big for me. And I just wasn't really getting the classwork, and it was kind of getting me down a bit. And where I thrived was in the creative scene, so like music and art. I really enjoyed those classes. And I remember one night, absolutely terrified, I had to wake up. I woke up at like 4 a.m. in a cold sweat, and I knew I can't do this. I can't be at school anymore. I don't want to stay to 6th year. But how am I going to tell mom and dad? Because my brother's this big fancy sub-lieutenant in the Navy. My sister's got this hugely successful home developments company in Bishopbriggs, and I'm just going to be the failure that leaves school at 16. Like, how am I going to even approach that? So I just got up and I walked across the landing. I said, Dad, I've got to tell you something. I don't want to do school anymore. And he was like, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Go back to sleep. We'll wake up tomorrow and we'll deal with it, and we'll do what you want to do. So I'm really lucky that I have such a supportive family unit. Mum and Dad have always been in my corner, always saying, you know, if it's music you want to do, then that's great. Go and study music, but you're not going to just leave school and do nothing. So if you want to do music, that's great, but go be a success where you want to be. Joined college, studied music, and I really thrived there because it was something that I wanted to do, and I understood everything about it, and it didn't feel stupid, it didn't feel silly. So I really, really thrived. And then I just went out in the gigging scene, and because I had mum and dad to support me, and obviously they were paying for everything because I was still staying at home, I was able to do minimum income for maximum exposure, which was one of my tips that I'll tell you about. But it meant that I could get myself out there as much as I wanted to every day of the week if I wanted to, and not worry about having to pay for a car or pay for a mortgage or whatever. So that really, really helped to boost my career. So we spent maybe from when I was 16 to about 18 just playing as much as we physically could. And then we thought, right, everyone loves the covers that we're playing, but we keep getting asked, when are you going to write your own songs? And it's just something we never really thought about. So I sat down with Dad, and my dad's really musical as well. My mum and dad run the Bishopbriggs School of Music, so hugely musical family. Sat down with Dad, and we just said, right, let's try this. We know how songs sound, we know what the structure's like, we understand the theory behind it, so we just need to try and put it all together and create a song. And we done it, and we created our first song, and then it turned into the second, the third, the fourth, and then we were all of a sudden just had a full album ready. So we thought, right, let's go to the studio and record it and release it, and the rest is history, because we then released our second album a year later. A year after that, we released our third album, and then 18 months after that, we released our fourth album, and it just seems to kind of work like clockwork now.
Such a busy girl. So what comes first when you're writing music? Do you have an idea about the lyrics, or is it the melody? How does that get put together?
I think that it's always a wee bit different. Sorry, I'm just trying to turn my sound off because my phone just dinged there. I don't know if you heard it. Sorry.
No.
So yeah, it's always different. No, it's always different. I think the main thing to do is always have kind of an idea. Like it's like when you're writing a story, you don't just all of a sudden I'm going to start writing a story and not know what I'm writing about. You've always got an idea of, right, we're going to write about this guy and this is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. So always having a topic to start with is really key. I feel like when we have a topic, it runs really smoothly, quite quickly, it comes flowing out, and then you've got a song by the end of it. If you don't have a topic, it's usually quite difficult to try and pull it out of yourself, and you find that those songs necessarily aren't really the best songs because there's nothing really there for people to relate to. And that's what people love doing. They love listening to your music, but they love relating to it and saying, you know, I went through that as well. And you know exactly how I feel because I felt exactly what you're saying. And it makes it so much more relatable. And so everyone really likes listening to those type of songs. So having a topic is probably the key thing.
And who would you say is your main inspiration then growing up for music?
Growing up for music, I think going back to that folky scene I was talking about, I was hugely influenced by Dougie MacLean. I mean, I thought he was absolute god. He was just amazing. His ability to songwrite, it wasn't just let's sing this catchy tune. It was you could follow the song from start to finish and find the storyline in it, and it would take you somewhere. You'd go on a journey with him. So having that ability, I was really influenced by that. And then later on, I got influenced by, obviously, mum and dad are slightly older parents for me. All my friends' parents are still just turning 50, and mum and dad aren't quite there. They're a wee bit older. I wouldn't like to say my mum might give me into trouble if I start disclosing her age to everyone. But yeah, having older parents meant that they had different music tastes than what my friends' parents had. So I took influence from people like Buddy Holly and T-Rex and Slade and Queen. The Beatles were a huge influence as well. And then going into the music scene, obviously you've got Dolly Parton, the country scene, sorry. You've got Dolly Parton and Johnny Cash and more people that are relevant now, like Casey Musgraves and Dixie Chicks. So a huge, wide spectrum of people.
Yeah. And what about your gigs then? When did you first start doing gigs?
I think, well, as soon as I joined college, it was kind of like, right, that's us, we're going out gigging. And it started in pubs. We done a lot of pubs, and we done a lot of lovely pubs, and we done a lot of not so lovely pubs as well. But that's where you learn your trade. That's what my mum always used to say, you know, you're going out and you're learning your trade. You're not just going to say, I'm a musician and I'm this big sophisticated musician. You're going to start from the bottom and you're going to work your way up. And I'm still working my way up. I'm nowhere near the top of that ladder yet. But now we don't play pubs, which is quite nice because you know, you can't really say to people, oh, I'm playing this theatre and it's £15 a ticket, or I'm playing the pub down the road for free. They're going to pick the pub down the road for free. And that was always quite a challenge. We done that, I think it was 3 years ago, we decided, right, that's us, we're stopping pubs. But that was quite a scary jump because you were secure in pubs and you had the income. And at that point, I was starting to pay my own things. Had a wee car and I was paying my insurance. And it was quite a scary concept from going from having that security to having nothing. You know, what if we make that jump and people say, well, tough, I'm not coming to pay £15. What if we're not that good? But it turns out that everyone still wanted to come see us. But yeah, pubs were where we started, and right at the beginning it was gala days. You know, I've played many a Bishopbriggs gala days and many Kirkintilloch gala days as well. And yeah, just having the experience to go on stage and play is the best thing, and going to open mics as well was really good when we first started out as well.
So where would you say your ideal venue is? Where would you really love to play?
Well, everyone asks me this, and I always say, you know, I'm really lucky because I've been able to play 2 of my ideal venues, just by absolute fluke, I say. So a couple of years ago, I put a video of a C6 Steve song. He just released his new album, and I recorded myself singing one of the tracks. Was called Purple Shadows. Put it on YouTube. Didn't think much of it. Just a nice wee video for YouTube. And then 6 months later, we got an email from C6 Steve's manager saying, Steve's doing this one-off gig in London and he'd really love you to be on stage and sing that song with him. So I was like melting into a puddle, didn't know what to expect. I was like, this is, somebody's pulling our legs, man. This is not real. And then they were like, oh yeah, by the way, this gig is in Wembley Arena. And I was like, you're kidding me on. You're absolutely kidding me on. So they paid for us to fly down to London. They paid for us to stay in this big fancy hotel. We showed up to Wembley Arena. We're walking up to the front door and I'm still saying to my dad, Dad, this is not real. Somebody's taking a mic. We're going to walk up and they're going to say, that's not on tonight. And we've came all the way down here. And he's like, it's okay. But fair enough, it was real. And we managed to play on Wembley Arena stage in front of 12,500 people. It turned out that Steve actually, at the very last minute, he was supposed to play alongside me and he just went, you know what, I'm just going to give you the stage. So it's just me, my guitar, on the stage, no one else on the stage apart from me, and 12,500 people staring at me, which when you see the video, there's a really, really rubbishy phone video of it. And I'm like this size because mum and dad are in the crowd. And I go to say something because you can see me on the big screen. I go to say something quite funny because, you know, you have to be a wee bit cheeky sometimes, a wee bit funny on stage. And I just went, oh, and then just started playing because I was like, this is absolutely terrifying. Before I was about to go on, I was chalk white. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But as soon as I got on and as soon as I played that first verse, the rest was history. I was like, right, okay, can I play another one, Steve? Can I play another one? But I got swiftly kicked off after that. But yeah, I can't thank C6 Steve enough. He gave me such a huge opportunity, and from that we got a lot of fans that had seen us there and have followed us since that. And then a couple of years ago, Steve came to Glasgow to do another show, and he played the Kelvin Grove Bandstand. And I've always wanted to play the Kelvin Grove Bandstand because it's like the only outdoor venue we've really got in Glasgow. And he said, oh, I've got a support slot to pick. I want Katee Kross because she's from Glasgow. And again, they came. And I was like, this is nuts. He could pick anybody he wants, but he picks me. Like, I just can't believe this. And instead of having one song this time, we had 45 minutes to fill, which was incredible. I think that venue holds like 3,500 maybe, or something around that number. So still a huge amount of people to be playing in front of. But yeah, they two are definitely on my list. And then, of course, being a country girl, playing the Opry in Nashville would just be a dream come true. I've played the Glasgow Opry, but playing the Nashville Opry would be
in the right direction, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you've played to a massive crowd now, so you've got that feather in your cap, haven't you? And that little short video, that's on your website if anyone wants to go and have a look at it, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. It is.
The YouTube clip that your parents took.
Yeah, the wee dodgy one my mum and dad took, because as soon as the show started, they got ushered to their seats. They weren't allowed to stay backstage. And Ross, my partner, was there, and he was allowed to stay backstage until a certain moment. And then he got ushered off as well. So I'm just this, I think I was maybe 18, maybe 19, maybe, I can't remember. But I was just young. And I was just backstage in this massive venue with this prospect of playing on the stage coming very close to me. So it was very overwhelming. And as soon as I came off stage, you know, the total rush of all of it, I was absolutely drained. I was like, I need to go to my bed now. I've had too much excitement today.
That's amazing. And thank goodness they actually caught it on camera so that you've got that forever.
Yeah, I know. It's really nice.
So you've got some tips for the viewers, haven't you, about pursuing your dreams and how best to kind of pursue what you want and get to where you are now, and sort of how to keep motivated along that process and keep going. You going to share them with us?
Yes, I can indeed. So this is technically like it's for a musician, because obviously I'm a musician. I suppose you could put it to really any career that you want to do. But the first one would be don't give up. I think that's a big one, because in the music industry, people who are outside the music industry obviously don't really understand how the industry works. So they're going to say to you a lot of the time, like, you know, your granny or your auntie or somebody is going to say, you can't make music and you can't make money in music, Ken. You may as well go do something else, get a real job. But you can, and that's just so not true, because obviously, you know, you can make the millions that like Beyonce and all those people are making, but you can also make a really comfortable living for yourself. Myself and my partner Ross, we're both musicians, and in November there we bought my mum and dad's house. So that's a huge step for anybody, but even a bigger step for a musician. And it means that we're making a comfortable living for ourselves. So just don't give up, and don't let somebody tell you that, you know, you should go get a real job, because it is a real job. It's not just your 9 to 5. You're working 12 hours a day. If you're not practicing, you're working on your social media, you're writing songs, you're doing your invoices, you're getting your gigs prepped, your rehearsals prepped. So it's a huge job. It's not just that 45 minutes you see on stage. There's so much before that has to happen before you go on stage. So I think a good one is...
Oh, sorry, Katie. What about rejection then? Because that must be something that you come up against in the industry quite a lot, especially when you're starting, but probably even when you are successful and you know you've been at it for many years. How do you deal with that?
I think, you know, you've got to take it as it comes. It's just part of the job. There's going to be days where you feel like, yeah, I've took 3 steps forward, I'm getting closer to that aim. And there's going to be days where you feel like you've took 5 steps backwards and you don't know why, because you've not done anything different. And it just depends on what someone's opinion is of you. And the main thing is not to let it get to you, because if you know deep down in yourself that you can do this and you're going to strive to do the best, then it doesn't matter what someone says, because that's just one opinion. So just take it, you know, as criticism and try and learn from it and try and better yourself. But don't let it get you down, and don't let it ever, you know, let you stop doing what you want to do, because it's not worth it. And you know that you can get there for sure.
Yeah, you've got
another tip I'd say is, another tip I'd say is a good social presence. And that's not just the case of, you know, constantly like updating your fans and things like that with new music and new videos and what you're selling, but it's also being more personable, like just updating them, you know, okay, I went to the shop today and I done this, or this is what I done today, and just being on a personal level with them. Because if you take the moment to really connect with your fans or the people that listen to you, then it's going to really stand you in good stead for later on in your career, and they're going to stay alongside you. If somebody takes the time to message your Facebook page, then take the time to message them back, because they've took 10 minutes out of their day to say, you know what, I really love that song and I really love the live stream you do. Well, say thanks so much, and I really like that you're supporting me, because I couldn't do it without you. And just giving that feedback back to your fans, again, strengthens that relationship you've got with them. When you go to festivals or gigs, I think it's really important to make sure you play your set, obviously, but then stick around at the end, because you don't want to be seen to be on stage playing and then pack up and then go, because that's not a really good image to have as a musician. You want to be seen to be supporting your fellow musicians, but also if you stick around, then you might meet somebody that, you know, you might have not met if you left early. I'm not saying stay for the full thing if you can't stay. Maybe stay for 2 or 3 hours after you're playing and get that networking in. Talk to the other musicians, because they're going to have contacts that you don't have, especially if they're English musicians. They're going to have people down there that you're not going to know, and it's going to strengthen your career and give you some foundation to work on in the future. So I think networking at festivals is a huge thing. People don't really expect musicians to be networking. It's not like your traditional going to a network meeting, like if you were in, I don't know, like my sister, who's a kitchen, bathroom, bedroom company. She goes to those type of things. Musicians don't really fit in there, I wouldn't think so. But going to your gigs, make sure you're talking to your people, your musician friends. Get those emails, get those phone numbers, and make a connection, because you don't know who you're going to meet. So that's a big one, I would say. And then also keeping it fresh, like we do like seasons, like winter, autumn, spring, obviously in the right order, but and it's seasons of gigs. When we do our seasons, we say, so for like the summer season, we'll do all of our own stuff, but then in the sets we'll maybe put 6 different covers, and we'll play the same 6 different covers during the summer season. It's quite lucky for the original material, because we've now got 4 albums, so it's quite easy to swap them in and out and keep that quite fresh. But we keep to the same 6 covers, because the more you rehearse, the more your session musicians want in return for like money wise at the end of it. So you want to keep the rehearsals to a minimum, but get the maximum out of them. And doing that is getting just 6 covers. And then when you move to your autumn season after your summer, we then change the 6 covers. Now we don't necessarily change all 6 covers. We maybe just change 2, and it keeps it still fresh. Because if somebody comes and sees you, you don't want to be playing the same set, because it only kind of wears a couple of times, and then everyone's like, right, are you a one-trick pony? Is that all you can do? So you want to make sure you're keeping it fresh, and it will, again, allow people to come see you as many times as they want, because you're always going to be playing something different to them. And also trying to work on your stage presence, because it's not just being a musician. You don't get to just play the song and that's you're let off. You have to be a funny person. You have to be likable. You have to be charismatic. You have to be caring. You have to be everything you possibly can be on stage. And doing that is just talking. I'm quite lucky. I've got the gift of the gab, as my mum says. I could just sit and talk to anybody. But people who are maybe slightly a wee bit shyer, it's a wee bit harder. So when I first started out, I was really shy. I was really shy as a child as well. I've got a big sister and a big brother. So I had two people that would run about after me. I wouldn't really have to say much. I'd just point at something and they'd bring it to me. So I think I blame my brother and my sister for that. But when I came to become a musician, I couldn't be shy. So having to push yourself out of that box is quite uncomfortable. But it really, really pays off when it comes to the show, because it makes it so much better. Just having that little bit of stage presence just adds to the whole show as well. And like I said at the start, when you're starting out, obviously this is a bit tricky if you've just started your music career and you're maybe in your mid-30s or something, and you've got a mortgage and you've got kids and you've got different bills to pay for, then maybe this one doesn't apply to you. But if you're young, like when I started out, and you've got a supportive network beside you, like your mum and dad, and they're willing to pay everything for you, which my mum and dad, you know, they paid countless amounts of stuff, not just food and keeping me alive, but they paid for petrol, and they paid for marketing material and photos and videos and everything you could possibly think of. They obviously came out of their pocket, which is can't thank them enough for that. But when you're starting out, if you have that structure around you, then you should really take the minimum income, maximum exposure, and don't do it forever. Just pick 2 or 3 years and get yourself out as much as you can. I was gigging in the very early stages. I was gigging Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I was working at the music school as well, and I still work at the music school teaching. But then when you reach, after that 3 years or 2 years, you reach that, you then say, right, okay, I've done my time. Now I'm going to respect that I deserve money, and I'm going to say I've got a talent and you need to pay for it now. And doing that step is always tricky. Like we said, when we were going from pubs to then, no, you can only see me if you pay for me. It's really tricky, but it's a big step, and it's a good step to take. But at the start, having the minimum income, maximum exposure really helps to benefit things like your social media, because you're going and playing in pubs and you say, you know, can you just like my Facebook page? I'm not asking you to pay me. I'm just asking you to put a like on my Facebook page. And then all of a sudden you've reached 1,000 likes in a year, and it's incredible. Like last week we reached 3.7 thousand likes on our Facebook page, which is a huge step for us, because a month ago we reached 3.6, and we were like, right, how quickly can we reach 3.7? And we done it in 3 weeks, which is huge, especially during this lockdown period. But having the facility to go online and do these live streams and saying, you know, there is a tip jar there, but you don't need to put money in if you don't want to. If you're not putting money in, it'd be really great if you could like our page and invite a friend to like the page. And that way we quite quickly got the likes up. So the next aim is 3.8. And I just checked there, we're almost at 3,740 or something just now. So not that far away, which is great. But yeah, I think once you reach that stage of I'm not going to play for nothing now, you have to respect that you deserve money. And if you don't start asking for it, then it seems like you're not taking yourself serious. So why would somebody else bother to take you serious?
You've got to know your own value. Sure. And then you've got to respect that and stick to doing that. Otherwise, you're devaluing yourself if you are going out and doing things for free. So what's
for sure? I mean, we still do.
Oh, sorry, there's a wee lag here, Katee. Carry on.
That's all right. Nowadays, we still do a couple of things, you know, for free. We try and do charity events and things like that for free. So it still is good, because obviously you're doing something good for a charity, but then it kind of plays back in your corner, because you can then get an article in a paper or something, you know, Katee Kross played for this charity and they raised X amount, and then you're getting your name out. So you're still getting a benefit from playing it, as well as, you know, feeling good for the soul.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, because a lot of people from outside think of, you know, musicians, they don't think of it as actually running a business. But from what you've said today, it's very clear that there is a business there. And although you're the front face of it, there's everything that's going on in the background is the same as any other business.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like my dad's my manager, so he takes a lot to do with the bookings and getting future gigs. He's working a lot in the background. We've also got Paul, who does our social media. He keeps everything ticking along. not in the case of he doesn't post, I still post the stuff, but he, you know, does all the fancy bits and bobs with all the numbers. I'm not entirely sure what he does. And then there's me and Ross, who we practice, and we try and get at least, you know, 2 to 3 hours of practice a day, which isn't, you know, a solid, I'm sitting down for 2 hours and I'm going to practice from start to finish. You know, it could be half an hour in the morning, a wee 20 minutes after lunch, another wee half an hour, and then over the day you've done 2 or 3 hours practice. But for us, having my dad and my mum dealing with like the booking and the serious stuff, it really means that we can focus our attention on just being great musicians and being able to step on stage and kick it at the first go, which is good.
So how did you meet Ross then? Because obviously you guys, you live together, you work together, you're practicing together. You know, it must be a true love story.
Yeah, well, I would say that when I started college, obviously before I started college and I just left school, I just turned 16. I never saw myself as, you know, somebody at 16 leaving school, because when I was at school, it was very much if you were 16 and you had left school, then you were a failure. No, it's not that at all, because I've done it and I've been through it, and it's just an age. And if you go to do something you want to do, then it's great. So I left school feeling a bit down, and I went to college, and I met Ross at college, and we actually got put in the same bands, because you do like bands in college. And then I think the rest is history. He obviously just fell head over heels for me. I mean, I'm irresistible, really, aren't I? And yeah, I was 16 when I met Ross, and I'm now 23. So we've been together for 7 years. And we've got a house together now, and yeah, we've got a dog together. It's very serious. It's a very serious relationship. But yeah, we practice all the time. We're with each other a lot of the time, probably like 99% of the time we're together. But the thing is, we're the same person, so we get each other and we understand, because we're both musicians. We both think the same way. Whereas sometimes I feel like if a musician goes with a non-musician, it's quite hard for the non-musician to understand how much the musician has to sacrifice. And it also is quite hard for the non-musician to understand that when you're on stage, you have to not, you know, don't like put yourself out there too much, but you have to be a wee bit flirty, and you have to be a wee bit playing to the crowd. The same as Ross has to play to the ladies, I have to play to the men. But we both understand it's our job, and it's how we get work, and it's how we progress. So yeah, I'm very lucky to have him, but he's also very lucky to have me.
Sure, yeah. And what about your wee dog then? What have you got?
I've got a King Charles Cavalier. His name's Buddy. We had another King Charles when I was younger, and she was called Holly. And 4 years ago, she had to get put down, but she was really old. She was like in her 20s. So she really lived for quite a long time, but she was, you know, she had cataracts, and she had no control over her bladder and things like that. So it wasn't very fair to keep her alive. And then we got Holly put down, but then we got Buddy. So when we got the puppy, we thought, how are we going to? We want to try and do something that will remind us of Holly, because she was such a huge part of my childhood. She was there from the whole time I was there. And we thought, why don't we just call her Buddy, like Buddy Holly, like the singer? We just do that, and we were like, great. So Buddy's called Buddy, but it's kind of after Holly.
Oh, lovely, lovely. And you're a local Bishopbriggs girl, obviously. So where do you like to walk, Buddy, in the local area?
That's a good one. I like to walk him along a canal. Canal's really good. I did take him once. Me and Ross took him down a canal. I think it was the winter there. The canal had actually frozen over, and we were doing a couple of turns of letting him off the lead, because he was behaving himself, and we let him off the lead this time. And he loves chasing birds for some reason. And there was a wee tiny bird in the middle of the canal, the frozen canal, and I had just clocked it as I'd let him off the lead, and I went, oh no. I was like, please don't, Buddy. And he ran right in the middle of the frozen canal. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? We had everybody, there was loads of people around trying to get him like back over our side. And he was just like, nah, I'm just going to chill here and let you all fret for a bit. We finally got him off, obviously, but it was just a total fear, because obviously the ice wasn't thick enough for us to stand on. And I was worried that he was going to fall through and maybe like get trapped. So after that, we've firmly kept him on the lead at the canal. But then also, you know, just walking. My sister lives near St Helens, so walking kind of over Wood Hill, and there's like a wee foresty trail there as well. But there's lots of lovely places you can take them.
There's loads. We've got lots of comments down here, Katee. I think wonderful interview from Tony, and I think Tony he's watching all the way from London. So hello to Tony. And we've got a couple of people asking when's the song, but we didn't agree for you to do a song live, did we? We didn't know that was in there. What we could do is we can direct people to your page and they can see some music on there.
Yeah, definitely. So you can head to my Facebook page. It's just Katee Kross, KATEEKROSS. I do a live stream every Saturday at 7 p.m. with Ross. We've also got a website, www.kateekross.com. You can get all 4 albums on that website as well. All the albums are on digital platforms, digital downloading platforms too. So you can get it really anywhere you can find music, we're there.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Okay, well, I think there'll be a lot of us tuning in on Saturday night. We'll look forward to that. You've been fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on and chatting to us, Katee. It's been great. I think everybody's learned quite a lot, and it's fantastic to speak to somebody who's just so inspirational, and you've got such a strong work ethic. It really very impressive.
Thank you so much. And thanks so much for having me. It was great to spend a wee half an hour with you chatting away.
It's been lovely. So what are your plans for the rest of the day?
I'm going to go a bit shopping for my mum and dad, and then probably just come home and chill and get some practicing done. And that's about it.
Okay, well, thanks again then, Katee. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Watching. Thanks, Katee.
Bye.